Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In part one, you saw me start to take apart the engine and perform a compression test, and it was not good news. So I wanted to delve a little bit deeper and see what exactly happened to this engine. Here goes. All right, intake is off. Things look pretty decent. I don't like the discoloration inside of these coolant passages. This one is just rust. But the ones there, here, and there, they look like they have some type of, it looks like mixing. It almost looks like oil and coolant mixed, but that usually doesn't affect these types of passageways. It usually affects the oil itself. So I don't know. I'll keep looking, see if I see anything else going on here, but let's get this intake gasket out of the way. Isn't this such a weird intake gasket? It's like smiley face cone type setup. This is really handy because when you remove your grommets for your PCV and your what is this side? Turbo drain line, oil drain line. This intake gasket actually catches the remnants. So you don't have to worry about dropping gaskets down into the crankcase because that will catch them. And here we are, looking down, things look okay. Taking a look at the camshaft. The lobes that I can see, it looks normal. This one right there, yeah, that one looks fine. Yeah, camshafts look good. These are flat tappet cams. These are not rollers, but they are hydraulic, so at least that's going for it. I can see our intake valves right in here. Things look pretty good. This is the EGR side. A little carbony. Same thing with this. Where are we at? Same thing with this side. A little carbon, but overall things look good. Got some, maybe water just pooled up down here. Yeah, but that looks okay. All right, let's look good. We'll continue on, get our rockers off, get our head bolts out, push rods, all of that. Now we're getting to the point where you need stuff that's, well, I've been labeling everything so far. If you look right in here, you'll see everything is labeled. But what I mean is cylinder by cylinder, you have to label stuff. So cylinder 1, 3, 5, 2, 4, 6, you're gonna have everything labeled. Each push rod needs to go back in its exact same spot. Intake, exhaust, so on and so forth. All right, so this engine is bad news. If you look down in here, this is where I was getting the worst reading. There's oil down in here. There's rust along the edges. And this is a Feldpro gasket. I'm gonna tell you in a moment why that's significant. But if we're looking here, we're seeing it's just not sealing well. So rust on the cylinder walls, oil inside of the cylinder, which I also saw when I was sticking my pen down here for the top dead center. If you come over on this side, this one doesn't look that much better. This is cylinder 2. Let me check my sheet here. Cylinder 2 had a 19% leakage. Let's see, this one is cylinder 4. It's all the way at the top. This one was the second worst with 22%. But yeah, just look at this. We got rust up in the corner, like rust along the side here. dirty here. And if you notice, this is not a Feldpro gasket. So somebody replaced the head gasket on that side just to try to solve maybe a sealing issue, but that has some other issues going on with it besides that. So, not sure we can really call this block serviceable. But I'm glad I took it off versus just sticking it in the engine. That would have been a bad weekend for sure. So let's continue breaking this thing on down. Next up, we'll get the flat tappets out. We'll get the timing cover off, the oil adapter, this entire front setup off. I'll have to take off this camshaft sensor before I do that and just get this all the way down. And in a little bit, I'll flip this over and inspect the bearings. I'm gonna have to inspect them now after seeing all of this. Who knows what type of trickery the previous owner of this car did to get it at this point. So, got everything stripped down, camshaft removed. Let me show you what that looks like. So the worst lifter is this one. And you can see just the slightest bit of mushrooming. I wouldn't even call it that, but there is wear here, considerable wear on there. And compared to one of these, which is smoother and it doesn't have that impression on there. So definitely something's going on there. The camshaft lobe that one's on, I believe, is this one right here. And you know, it looks a little bit worse than the others. It's not as shiny, but I really don't think that's a serious issue, but we'll let the machine shop decide. Over on this side, taking a look at the oil pickup, there is, you know, bearing material here. You can see some right there on the pickup screen as well. Taking a look at some of the camshaft bearings. This one in particular, it's not serious enough to grab my fingernail, but you know, it doesn't look perfect either. But I've heard camshaft bearings looking worse and running regardless, so not totally ready to call that a loss. I'm really curious to see like what a rod cap looks like, so let me take off the oil screen, see what's inside of it, and I'll take off one of these, maybe this one since it's... popped off the oil fill tube. That looks all right. And I popped off these two caps, and it's not looking good. If you take a look, you'll see some scoring. It grabs at my fingernail. It's not deep, but it's deep enough. It's not shiny. The crank looks all right, but even that, you know, it looks pretty good. The crank looks pretty good, but the bearings look worn. This one looks even worse. Not comfortable putting all that back in there. If you're looking at the bottom side of the pistons, they all look really, really clean. So this motor has been remanned at some point, but somebody messed it up. Seems like a really good stopping point for tonight. It is 1 a.m. and I am beat. Not a lot of good news coming out of this engine, unfortunately, but I'll come up with a plan. All right, so it is the next day, and I'm back in the garage just tearing apart the rest of the pistons, getting the crankshaft out of the engine, and really very doubtful about how salvageable this block is going to be. I spent most of the night thinking about replacement options for it, but I know I'm just getting ahead of myself, so at this point, it's just important to get it over to the machine shop and find out once and for all what this thing is going to do. All right, so we got a lot to unpack here, and I've done a lot of unpacking already, but let's take a look at what we have. We've got crank bearings here. This one looks really, really good. No scoring. This looks a little bit worse for wear. It's kind of hard to see, but some of the shininess has worn off there and here. So that looks pretty bad. I already removed the oil seal, so don't worry about that. Over on the piston side, things look a little bit alarming. We have stuck number 1 ring on cylinder 2. Totally fine on cylinder 4, just a little carbon buildup. Totally fine on cylinder 6. On this flip side, we have cylinder 5. All rings are stuck. Well, both rings are stuck. The oil ring seems to move. Nope. All 3 rings are stuck there. We've got everything looking fine on here, just carbon buildup, and a lot of carbon buildup here, but all rings are loose. All of the bearings have some degree of wear, so none of them look great. And on the flip side of the caps, we're seeing some scoring there as well. Yep, over on cylinder heads, we have cylinder 5 right here, looking pretty much the worst. Carbon buildup on 1. This one was also the one that had the rusty cylinder. This one had a little bit of rust, but looked fine, tested fine on cylinder 6. It only had like 10% leakage. Cylinder 4 had 22% coming from the crankcase, and cylinder 2 had 19% leakage coming from the exhaust. All of the cylinders look decent except for this one here. I had to put some fine grit sandpaper to the walls of this because it wasn't letting the rings past it. So I may be dealing with a block that will need some reworking. Additional info, these pistons are 40 over and the rod caps are 20 over. So I need to check with the machinist, see if this is not a junk block. It may very well be, because 40 over, I'm not sure you can go much more over that safely. 20 over on the ground down crank, that's that's a little bit rough too, but all the journals on here look pretty good. Take a look. Everything looks really shiny, no hard grooves. We look good there. I forgot to show you all earlier the best part. So here's the oil pan, and there's a lot of glimmering. There's a lot of major pieces here. I'm going to try to focus on things so you can see it. But all of those bumps that you see, they're not bubbles. They are bearing material. Like this one right here. There we go. This one right here, very much so. We got a lot more in the pan. Look at those. Those chunks are huge for bearing material. Now, just a reminder, this block is not for T-top. T-top runs fine, just need to iron out some details with its running consistency on startup. This block is for Astra Roof over there. So Astra Roof has this thing where it was put away wet, literally, and the coolant passageways in the block are cracked. So I can show you where on this block. So right here is where the starter goes, and there is a crack going all the way here on both sides. Now, I was able to JB weld one side and worked fine. I JB welded the other side and it was still leaking. And you know, JB weld was just so we can enjoy some fall weather. And once we got it to wintertime, this was the plan. We were gonna swap it out with a good known block. Now, this is a 109 block. It has 20 bolts in the oil pan. It's remanufactured, so it wasn't a sign of VIN. So what I thought was a virgin 109 block is not. But later on today, I'm going to load everything up in the truck, take it over to the machinist, and hear the good or probably bad news. Because if it's bad, it's gonna be a lot of money. If it's really bad, then I'm out money. So we'll figure it out either way. All right, so the engine has been officially dropped off at the machine shop. I should hear from him in about 2 weeks with a list of the parts that I need. He was pretty confident that it can be saved. He's just going to end up honing out that cylinder. And once he takes his measurements, he'll know from there if everything else looks good. But he let me know that just the remanufacturing tag alone lets him know that the cylinders are 40 over. That's kind of standard work for whenever a block is remanufactured. They go 40 over because you can likely correct all cylinder wall defects with a good known block if you go 40 over. So confirmed 40 over is on the cylinders. I confirmed 20 over is on the rods and the mains. And it'll be a couple weeks before we hear back from him, but I feel pretty secure in knowing that it's in the right hands and we'll be able to get some type of resolution on that. I did ask him about the other block that I had, the one that's currently installed in Astra Roof. He said that that block is likely just junk. He told me about a couple of tricks that they used to do back in the racing days on sealing those up, but nothing that's gonna work for our purposes. So I'm relieved. It seems like the money that I spent on that block, it is worth it. We do have, in fact, a 109 block. We got good heads that will likely be saved. Well, we don't know that yet. We don't know if there's not any cracks or anything like that, but he's gonna MagnaFlux, he's gonna sonic check, he's gonna do all of that good stuff. So we'll know for sure what the process for putting things back together are. And if the heads are bad, I'm pretty sure the heads that are on the other car are good. So if we gotta combine two blocks to make one good one, totally fine. Not concerned about that. Cams are really hard to find right now, so I doubt I'm gonna do any performance upgrades with the cam while I have it. It may just be a regular flat tappet cam that goes back in there. From this project early on, I think I have a set of stock lifters and push rods, so I'll probably be using those. I want to measure them to make sure that they are in fact the right ones, but we'll go from there on it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Talk to you next time.